Thanks, and thanks for the introduction. And I just want to say Sarah has touted me the last couple of days as the most neutral person on energy efficiency she knows. So I'm going to take advantage of that trust and encourage you all to visit our booth and learn a little bit more about what ECAP Network does. But I'm just going to start by asking two questions for the general panel. Whoever wants to answer first can, and then we'll open it up to questions. But the theme is, for this lunch session, is getting there from here. So I guess the first obvious question there is, in your mind, where is there? What is the vision for a sustainable future in West Virginia? And, you know, in a couple of sentences, what do you envision? So we're going to start with whoever, and we have a microphone. So who wants to answer that question first?
I'll start. I think we in West Virginia need to understand that we're an energy state, and to be an energy state and to be taken seriously, we have to understand sustainability, energy efficiency, really the broad view of how to protect our environment, use our energy wisely, and at the same time be a participant both nationally and globally in providing energy for not only our state but the region and the country around us. And I think we should be one of the leaders in making this country energy efficient by 2020. A big part of that happens to be how we use energy in our buildings and our homes. And in that regard, we have a long way to go.
I guess just to build off of that, you know, being an energy state also means increasingly we're an exporter of energy, and our electricity prices here are governed in large part by commodity prices. You know, the price of coal has really driven up our electricity rates a lot in the past few years. And so I would like to see a vision where we're bringing economic development benefits here back to this state to become, you know, more energy efficient, have more distributed, localized power sources to you know, get real energy, more energy independence for West Virginia as we continue to be an energy state.
I see that there's still huge untapped potential as far as being collaborators, and that those of us who are working to build more energy efficient buildings or to conserve resources, that does not have to be the polar opposite of those who are producing the energy or manufacturing it. So I think sometimes there's this divide, well, not sometimes, I think it is a huge divide that exists between thinking that those of us who are trying to conserve energy or build more energy efficient buildings, that maybe we're not patriotic, that somehow we do not support the coal industry or Marcellus Shale, and I think there's a huge opportunity for us to open up that dialogue, and I really think we are part of the same team.
Where is there? I mean, we don't know where there is yet. So I think what we really need to do is focus on what we do here, because really what's next is what's next. And as long as we have a mindset to embrace what's next, again, the collaborative spirit is really what's going to move us forward. You know, we talk about this thing called sustainability. I just don't want to be hanging on anymore. I was listening to Mark this morning, and it's really about a multiplier effect. Because if people say, how's your relationship with your partner or your husband or your wife? You said sustainable. That's a good place to start. But we're at the point now where we can really transform the way we think, the way we do things. You know, I'm moved by all you people in the audience, and I keep hearing about Bertie County, Bertie County. It sounds like, you know, here we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And if that's the mindset, then let's collaborate. I was really inspired. Thank you. I thought someone was copying. But I think we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And I was so thrilled to see the collaboration last night on stage, because there are people coming from very different places with one thing. How do we get there? And we don't know where there is yet, but as long as we know it's coming, and we're willing to work collaboratively, that to me is the most important thing. And then of course this morning Ted talking about the embedded energy in things. If we understand that things have a certain value of embedded energy within, that's the greatest resource of all, including people. So we need to tap into it.
I think when I first met Sarah, I was talking about, I was 1974, I was driving a vehicle that got 15 miles to the gallon. Actually, I was wrong on that. It only got 12. Now, the vehicle I drive today doesn't get much better than that. So where are we? Where's there? Well, we're certainly not there. We should have come a long way since the Arab oil embargo. The country has not had an energy policy, has not dedicated itself to it. And the thing about this country is that if it can get a vision, and if leadership can provide us with a vision, you know, John Kennedy said that by the end of the decade, we would have a man on the moon, and we did. And that was a good example, I thought, of the country coming together and getting actually something accomplished. So when the Arab oil embargo hit, we were going to become an energy independent nation. We were going to have vehicles that got 100 miles to the gallon. We were going to improve our usage of energy, our transmission of energy, and we didn't do it. So where's there? I think there is still out there.
Either one of you?
Yeah, well, as a builder, I'm out there. You know, we look at things in a way that is going to give. We still have to look at what our client wants, but you know, I have to educate them to put in all of the items that is going to best benefit them, the climate, the planet, people to come who may live in that house after they're gone. So we take into all considerations the things that we can control, and that's anything that we can do renewably, stuff like that, and move in that direction to there, wherever there is going to end up at some time in the future that really hasn't been decided yet. But you know, we're headed there. We're headed in the right direction, and this group of people is a great testament to that.
We're an evolutionary body of people, of creatures. We're not revolutionary. One of the things we shouldn't be concerned about is being forced to do something that may be beyond our budget, beyond our capability. We like to talk about LEED. We like to talk about the various levels of LEED, certified silver, gold, platinum. But if all you can do is install a low-flow toilet, or all you can afford to do is install dual-glazed windows rather than triple-glazed, then that's what you should do. Don't be embarrassed by not following LEED. LEED is, while it's good, it's an example. It's not mandated. It shouldn't be mandated. I hope it never will be mandated. We live in an evolutionary society. Let's just take one step at a time, and you will get there. We will get there. Whether it's in West Virginia or this country or China, but let's not forget that we are an evolutionary people. We live in an evolutionary society.
Thanks, that was great. I do want to add, you know, if you've never looked up the statistics, and I don't have them at the ready, look up the per capita consumption of energy for Americans compared to those in India and China. And then start realizing that even though there's close to 3 billion people in those countries, only a fraction of them actually participate in the global economy. But the rate at which that number is growing is exponential. And start realizing that if those people start consuming energy the way we do, there's not enough fossil fuel on the planet. And that, you know, that's something to think about. And we all, no matter how much we export, we we compete for those resources as consumers. And the best thing you can do in the long run is make yourself less and less dependent on those fossil fuels. It's really common sense. It's not, shouldn't be political. So I just want to add that. I also want to say that I think I'm going to rename you the Steve Quote Machine from the Green Bronx Machine. I can't write down fast enough. Oh, that was a good one. My next question is, so getting there, you know, we talked about where we think there is or isn't. If there was one hurdle that you thought was the biggest significant impediment to getting there, what is it, and what do you think we need to do to overcome it? And I think a lot of that was talked about in the collaboration and the, you know, kind of breaking down people barriers. But are there any others? Yes.
Education. That's all it is. It's conferences like this, it's symposiums, it's education, it's getting the word out. One thing about selling, all of us are pretty much in the selling business no matter what it is, and we all try to say that the customer is right. I've got a little bit different philosophy that came from my father, who's probably one of the best salesmen I've ever known, and that is the customer is always wrong. And because we're supposed to be the experts. Well, there's a panel of experts up here who know more than any one of their single clients do. In fact, many times they probably know more than all their clients put together. So it's our challenge as marketing people, as salespeople, as educators, as prognosticators, whatever you might want to call us, as builders, that it is an educational step. You can't expect the owner or client to know exactly that that is the best thing on the market because they haven't been doing the kind of research that we should be doing. And if we're not doing that, then we don't deserve to even be up here, let alone in business.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that we're all going to touch on the education aspect because it's an education for me as a builder every day to learn more about the products that are out there to use that aren't fossil fuels, anything that's renewable, and then how to educate my clients that come to me on how they can benefit them and what that is going to attribute on down the line. Cost is always an issue too, but you can educate a lot of the cost factor out of the customer to where there is a much greater cost-benefit ratio than there is just the cost. So when we look at it that way, typically we can make it affordable if we can educate them.
Part of it, and this is education, but it's also looking strategically. If you just look at tomorrow and what your costs are today versus tomorrow, it is very confining. If you look at a trend line and try to anticipate what costs might be in the future, and as an example, cost of energy, cost of electricity, there's no doubt in my mind the cost of electricity is going to go up. I suspect it's going to go up dramatically in West Virginia in the next 10 years. At some point, it'll cross over to the degree that users absolutely have to address somehow proactively the cost of energy. The question now is to educate people to the fact that that is coming. When, I'm not sure, but I am very positive that it is coming. Investment today, in many ways, is strategically the best thing you can do. If you're just looking at tomorrow, it's a hard cost to justify. So we have a lot of work to do in trying to extend our time frame and look at energy conservation from a more strategic perspective than just what's our cost today versus tomorrow.
So from a policy perspective, I would say that one of the things that we need to do is make the value of energy efficiency more apparent as we're making various types of decisions about our buildings. So, for example, it's a problem that energy data, building energy use data, is not transparent, and so a small business owner looking to lease space doesn't know the energy use of different options, which is a problem for the business owner because they might end up leasing like an energy hog, but it's also a problem because there's no competition amongst business owners to try to be more energy efficient in the buildings that they're leasing. As a totally different example of integrating the value of efficiency into our decisions, we should be looking more closely about, can we cheaply save energy through energy efficiency rather than, investing in new power plants, and, share those savings between the utilities that are investing in energy efficiency programs and the ratepayers who are saving from those investments.
Speaking about education, I think that is the key. I know that my company has a hard time finding skilled technicians, and so education is kind of lacking. Technology has really improved. Going back to the 70s when the Arab oil embargo, well, we are able to do so many things today because of the technology that we have. But when we put it out there, then who actually installs it, who repairs it, who maintains it? And so we need to actually, I think, through our VOTEC schools, our career centers, we need training programs for people. We need more technical schools. It seemed like I read a while back that in 1950s, 15% of the workforce needed to be skilled, 20% needed to be college educated, and 65% could be non-skilled. That's not true today. 20% still need to be college educated. 15% could be non-skilled, but 65% of the workers need to be skilled. So those numbers have actually flipped. So education is something that I think if we're going to get anywhere, we have to look at it, and we have to start re-educating ourselves.
At this point, we'd like to open it up to the audience for question and answer. Do we have a microphone out there, is it? Okay.
Hi, I'm a builder in the local area, and I have a little off-the-grid modular out here in Maysville that it's a model home. I am motivated just by my education of realizing that we have to do something about climate change, global warming, I think, or else we're going to be in serious trouble in about 10 years. But I look at other models of what other states, other countries have done, and I think that we need to look at our society as a lot of people are dollars and cents oriented. It's not just, I'm concerned about global warming, I'm concerned about my budget today. And these other states and countries have incentivized smart choices for people in terms of the environment. And I don't see that happening in West Virginia. Give you an example, in Germany, about 30% of their energy is produced with solar panels. Well, the reason is that they give you 3 times the cost of electricity for everything that you produce than what you're consuming. So it became a no-brainer. Banks are financing it as if it were going out of style. Try to get solar panels financed on a house, new house here in West Virginia or any place. They're based on appraised value, which there aren't any, as a comparative. So therefore, the banks won't loan you the money. Another thing that in Delaware, which I'm building a house down there, a passive house, which is something also that Germany came up with, a super insulated house, but nonetheless, in Delaware, they have pilot programs that are making the panels down there pay off in 4 years. Also a no-brainer. Of course you're going to put them on. The solar companies are busy as heck down there. When I had a lead inspector come up to look at my house, he said, if we just air sealed and insulated attics in this country, we could eliminate 14 power plants. So why doesn't the government have the foresight to incentivize some of this stuff, Senator McCabe, or whoever, to the rest of the people in this audience? Why aren't we telling our representatives we want forward-thinking incentives to give the homeowner incentive? It's hard for me to sell solar panels when I say, sure, it'll pay off in 25 years. And they go, 25 years? Forget it. I'm not putting solar panels on. So we need these incentives, in spite of the fact that it's a good thing. You should be educated, make the right decision. But the government should be leading us in this direction, I think. We're not going to do it on our own, I don't think.
I'm not sure government should be leading us. Government should be responding to what is perceived as something that's going to happen, and we know for sure that it's out there. As it relates to West Virginia and trying to incentivize a whole variety of smart things to do from an energy conservation perspective, we have one problem in the legislature, and that is the word tax credits. Anytime you bring that up, it's like, talk about anything but that. We're not going to do tax credits. You're giving away something. If it ought to work, the free market ought to take care of it. We don't want tax credits. Now, one of the things we did get done in the last 2 years was pass a small bill that said if you wanted to convert your vehicle to compressed natural gas, if you were a company that wanted to put in a service facility serving natural gas fueling facility, there would be certain types of credits for that. That program is only going to be out there for 5 years. The reason it was passed was to jumpstart the move in West Virginia towards getting fleet vehicles to use compressed natural gas. The same can be said for solar panels, for all types of Energy Star appliances. We do put a little bit of money out in weatherization. We put that out there and we think we've solved the problem. We in the state, and particularly in the legislature, and frankly it's the governor and the legislature and the communities that elect the legislators, there is a real bias about putting in what is perceived as artificial stimulants for things that the market economy ought to take care of. In my own perspective, and I've been sponsoring these particular bills for years now, is that it's not a matter of subsidizing over the long haul, it's a matter of providing someone who wants to participate in new technologies to show that it makes sense, to cause that to happen more quickly, to create a market that allows it to sustain itself. That's a 3 to 5 year period where you have to kind of push or jumpstart certain types of technology. I'm all for that. But I have to admit, in all candor, getting it through the legislature is an uphill battle. Just as getting new codes. I was in a session this morning where we just updated the code. They took the national standard, but the national standard we took was 5 years old. The current standard that's in front of everybody, we couldn't get anybody to take seriously because local business people, rural counties did not want to pay for these new codes, felt it was pricing the product out of their reach. We did get them to accept increasing the code from a 93 standard to a 2005 standard. That passed, but we're still behind the bar. And it's not because the legislature is sitting on their hands refusing to act. It's because the people who they represent, who vote for them, are afraid of these types of new regulations. So you talk about education, it's not just educating the policymakers and the leadership, it's really about educating the public. It's about educating the electorate. And we have a long way to go in West Virginia because we remember Mountaineers are always free, and don't ever try to tell me what to do in my house or my property.
Well, I'd like to add a little too on that. I mean, if you take Germany as an example, one of the fastest ways to educate people is to let them get smacked with the free market. So you talked about pricing electricity is going to go up, but those things don't tend to go up a little bit every year. They tend to go in spikes. And in Germany in the late 80s, they got hit so hard by utility pricing that everybody there said, you know what, I'd be willing to commit to a 10-year contract to buy biofuel if I can get guaranteed I will never get hit by this again. So they realized, the people, not the government, that it was in their best interest to come up with longer-term solutions, so they weren't so susceptible to these things. Then they clamored for these incentives. Everybody bought into it. So in the end of the day, it's an education standpoint. But, you know, again, not to get political, but at the presidential debates, we had questions that said, what can we do to reduce gas prices? What should the government do to reduce gas prices? We're actually producing more domestic oil than we have in my lifetime. But there's more consumers around the world, too. People need to feel that price pain. That's the feedback loop that tells them, maybe I should get off, maybe I should be more efficient. And then they're going to clamor for incentives as well to help them make those decisions.
So y'all don't hold it against me. I'll let you know now I am from California. So that, you know, but it puts me on the edge, usually the bad edge of a lot of things. I was in the solar business back in the late 70s. I was also built the first wind farm in San Diego County. It was all based on incentives. The minute those incentives went away, the entire industry collapsed. But in the process, it developed a bunch of charlatans that came into the business because there was free money available, which wasn't supported by the public sector. In the United States, we have the greatest venture capital community in the world. We finance projects worldwide. We've got some very sophisticated venture people sitting here in this room. If you're that good, if your process is that good, I guarantee you, as a former investment banker, I can get you financed. But we do live in a free market, and we ought to stay that way.
I just wanted to point out, as regards West Virginia's electricity system, I mean, it's a regulated monopoly system. It's not exactly a free market. So there are definitely things. You know, like I mentioned before, it costs on average nationally about 3 cents to save a kilowatt hour of electricity by utilities investing in energy efficiency programs and offering incentives to their customers. So if we were investing more in programs like that and having the utilities share in some of the savings, that would be, you know, a lot cheaper and make us a lot more energy efficient than going out and building new power plants. And similarly, you know, there have been economic development projects for, you know, waste heat recovery, which is a very efficient process, that have stalled in West Virginia because of an inability to get a fair price for power selling it to the grid. So it's not all about free market.
I think I'm listening to a lot, and I'm taking it in. I think, you know, it's always important to always think, sometimes you got to move off price and think about value. And value comes from what we talked about before, education. So we're here at a building conference, and really, you know, Mark and a couple of people this morning spoke so eloquently about using the building as a vehicle. And this gentleman with his concerns, it's really about educating people. So I'm going to bring it back to education a little bit more, because that's the world I'm in. 1 out of 4 Americans is in school every single day. 50% of the households in America have either a student or a teacher residing within. 70% of Americans are committed to seeing schools green, whatever you want to term that, greening our schools in their lifetime. And 80% of all consumers will support a business that supports schools. So really it's about public-private partnership. I think Ted said it brilliantly this morning, that when you have a good business, one good business brings another good business. Just like one bad building brings down, you know, another bad building. So really, it's about education, and it's about really just changing the way we're receptive to the kinds of information we're being presented, because I don't see the world as having an academic problem. And even though I work in schools where there is a performance problem, it's really an engagement process problem. So if we engage people around the issues, we're really going to transform them. You know, I said it yesterday, and I'll say it again, that it is easier to raise healthy children than fix broken men. But it's also far more profitable. Think market share and think long term. So that's really what we need to do. We need to get up here and share ideas. We need to drive this forward in ways we've never imagined. And therein lies the answer. At the end of the day, Therein lies the answer. It's about coalition. It's about collaboration. I, too, am trying to move from the left to the right side of the chart on the evolutionary chart of man. I'm getting there a step at a time. And, you know, I entered this with my knuckles scraping the ground. Now I'm walking upright and, you know, I'm looking to run.
Just one word on those presidential debates when they said that thing about what we're going to do about bringing down the price of gas is, you know, I quit caring about the price, the PPG a long time ago. What I care about is MPG. Give me miles per gallon, charge me $10 a gallon for the gas. I'll take it any day.
I actually wanted to say that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt any of the panel. Were you guys still talking?
I just wanted to say one thing.
Sure.
The very first seed fund for venture capital in the Silicon Valley was started with coal and steel money from Pittsburgh. Keep that in mind. That's how innovation works.
Well, I guess for me, I'm coming out this afternoon. When I say that, I'm actually admitting to the fact that for years, many, many years, I've paid absolutely no attention to conservation and to the things that I should be doing probably as an individual to help this planet that we're all inhabiting. And I have to say that I've been inspired by what I've spent. I've been here for, well, yesterday and today, and I have to say that I've been really inspired by what I've heard, and I hope to be able to pass some of my interest to do better, to be a better citizen when it comes to saving the planet. But if you were to take someone like me, which I don't know, probably in this group I am a minority, but when it comes to that. But when it comes to taking someone like me from there to here, or getting there from here, is there anybody there that would like to sort of give me words of wisdom as to how to, as an individual, what I can do? You know, I mean, it doesn't have to be very involved or very long, but just a little words of encouragement that would help someone like me, who's been so bad for so long, to get there from here. Thank you.
That's a great question.
I will just say this. I have words, because I always have words. They're not very wise, but I have words. We talk about educating and we talk about the youth. You know, my firm, we do interns throughout the year. I run an energy efficiency firm, and I get lectured every day about how I don't print on both sides of the paper, how I don't turn the lights off, and it's fantastic because it's, you know, it's tiny little moments of, oh, right, a little bit of shame every time. And there is no, and my kids, if I leave the water running while brushing my teeth, I get told about it. So this next generation is absolutely going to change the world. And there are so many people now coming out with this mindset that there's way more than there are jobs, but every job they go into, they're going to take this mindset. And that's what we all talked about, because it can't be as energy efficiency experts that do this. It has to be bankers and lawyers and accountants and everybody, really. The janitor, everybody's got to think this way for it to make a real difference. So.
To the lady who just spoke, don't worry, you're not alone. There's, I'm sure there are several in this room, myself included, that could say the same thing. The one thing I think people like to recycle, people like to do this, people like to do that. I look at it in an urban setting. In recycling, you have the trash companies come along, it's separated. But where I live, you got one trash truck that runs once a week. And so it's a thing of convenience. So do we recycle? No. And I'll admit that. My cans, my plastic, all goes in the same Glad plastic bag and picked up by the truck and taken to the landfill. There is the one, I think the hardest thing about getting a good recycling program going is that really, folks, let's be realistic. There's no profit in it. There's no money in it for a lot of it. Some of it in some places, yes, I'm sure that there is. But rural situations, a place like West Virginia, what company's going out there to go into that business? So I think that that's a problem.
For those of us who are coming out, I came out too, and my advice is to do one thing. Connect the dot. Just make a dot. So the easiest thing that I learned about were these energy vampires, because I have kids in school with cell phones and the computers are on 24 hours a day. Shut the computer. Pull out a charger. One small thing. And you just connect these dots to much bigger dots, to lines, to shapes, and to figures. And you're going to find fixed points in the sky. But it starts with one thing. I mean, I lost a lot of weight. Some of you have seen the video. I just made a smaller plate. And that was it. So I ended the capacity. And then I did something else. And then I did something else. But it's always about connecting dots. And keep it simple. Because this is a huge task that we're tasked with. I mean, the implications here are huge. It can be overwhelming. But momentum breeds momentum. So if you do one thing, you start doing another thing. And just build on concentric circles of success. That's really my advice. Do one thing. Shut the water, brush your teeth less, pull out your cell phone charger when it's not in the wall, shut the lights, little things, and then it creates awareness. You talk to people. And the mommy factor is huge. You know, in schools, I'm dealing with kids. Let me tell you, the mommy factor drives the market. So it's also a great way to build market share for what you want to do, but, you know, it really starts with kids at the end of the day.
Hey guys, I don't want to make anyone late for their session, so if there are speakers in the next sessions that need to get ready, this is your prompt. We have just less than 15 minutes to make sure that we're on time for the sessions, and I have one more question here. And so if you can do rapid fire answers to Michael's question here.
Well, this question is just to Senator McCabe, so we can be short. Since the state is so adverse to tax credits, it would make a huge effect in economic development for the state and having people move to this state if the energy companies, which are monopolies and therefore regulated by the state, if they were made to buy back extra energy, extra electricity from small producers. Just that one change, I think, would make a huge difference, and it has nothing to do with tax credits.
That will happen. I can't tell you when. There's some metering issues and technology issues, but it absolutely has to happen, and I think you'll find a broad base of support for that.
Problem solved. See, you come to the building conference and you get solutions.
A round of applause, and then I have announcements about sessions. A round of applause for the session panelists. Thank you, John Whirling, for playing along with me and letting me put you up on stage and in sessions and in these conversations. Thank you, panelists. You're awesome, different, varied, diverse, and that's what it's all about.